and welcome to Unity of the Valley Spiritual Center. We are part of Unity Worldwide Ministries. You can find us locally at 350 North Orchard Avenue in Vacaville, California. If you are a first-time viewer or if you're returning, welcome home. Welcome to our broadcast. We appreciate it that you're here. Please click on the tile in our website, http://www.unityvacaville.org, to fill out our welcome card. You can update your personal information or you can seek more information because we have a number of programs that you may be interested in. Unity of the Valley Spiritual Center is a loving spiritual community where everyone is accepted, no exceptions. Your soul is welcome here. Let us begin our services with a prayer by the Reverend Dalia Adams.
Let us pray. Let us pray and celebrate this holiday honoring our freedom. Let us celebrate the true God, through the truth of our oneness with God, through the truth that we are children of God. Freedom is our birthright. We celebrate freedom. We commit ourselves to working to embrace our freedom and to protect our freedom, to live in our freedom. We turn to God and we say thank you. Thank you for the freedom that is ours, and thank you for the many blessings that are ours today. And so it is. Amen.
Again, good morning. My name is Phyllis Flemings, and I am so happy and privileged to be your service assistant today. This morning, I want you to look at the people who are around you. If you have people that are near you, look at them. And if you don't, just visualize those special people, the people who are important to you. Now, I would like for you to hold in mind and heart every person joining this service, knowing that each one of us is a beautiful child of God. And finally, let's envision all the people in our community, our state, our nation, and on our planet. Bless them as we state together, you are a beautiful child of God, perfect in every way. You are loved unconditionally, just the way you are. Now we know that if this is good for them, and we know it is, it's good for us. So let's take this into ourselves and let's say together, I am a beautiful child of God, perfect in every way. I am loved unconditionally, just the way I am. Every time I hear that, it just makes me feel so good to know how true it is for everyone on the planet. Did you know that our prayer chaplains are just an email away at unityvv@pacbell.net? They are available to pray with you. If you have a celebration that you would like to talk to them about, or if it's just a chat you would like to have, whatever the reason, or no reason at all, you can contact them and they will pray with you. We're so happy to have these wonderful people available for our congregation and you who are also a part of our congregation. Today is the first Sunday in July, and we all know what that is. It is Birthday Sunday. So let's take a minute to welcome all of you who are born in this wonderful month of July.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear family. Happy birthday to you. God is blessed. blessing you now. Woo! Love you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Today is a very special day. We are now in phase 1, where we are welcoming everyone to our center. We are still continuing with our broadcast, but you have a choice. The whole family is invited to come to our center. You may watch our broadcast, or you may do both. We're just happy to have you participate with us. We're having a celebration on Sunday, July 18th. Celebration of Freedom will be held at 11:30 a.m. outdoors here at our center. Enjoy the beautiful dancing of the folklorico dancers, and then you will have a delicious meal, tacos or burritos. The tickets are on a love offering basis, and we're requesting $20. You will hear more details in the future. I would like to invite Reverend Dalia Adams to come up. She has a special announcement to share with you.
So I'm here today to let our entire community know that our beloved, amazing Teresa Meadows has found new and greater opportunities. And so she is leaving her position here at Unity of the Valley Spiritual Center. She tells me she's not leaving the community, and we will see her in various ways, but we are now in a position where we are looking for someone to fill her position. We are looking for an administrative assistant / office manager. If you are interested in the position, or if you know of someone who might be interested in the position, if you have a niece, a nephew, a grandchild who might be interested in the position, any amazing person is welcome to apply. The best way to do that is to email us at unityvv@pacbell.net. You could also leave a message at 707-447-0521. So I'm asking for your help and asking you to hold in prayer and hold in your vision that we get someone who supports the church as well, or at least almost as well as Teresa has. So join me in thanking Teresa. Join me in honoring her on her continued life's journey. Join me in seeing the most amazing prosperity for her. And join me in seeing Unity of the Valley blessed with a new and wonderful person in that role. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Whether you choose to view the services online or you choose to return to our building, because we are now reopened, you are a beloved part of our community, and we so love and appreciate you. Thank you for supporting our broadcast and our center with your gifts today. As we center this morning, let's take a deep breath and repeat our statement of faith. Let's do this together. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good.
As I went walking down Ribbon Highway, I saw above me the endless skyway, and I saw below me a golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California the sun was shining, then I was strolling, wheat fields waving, dust cloud rolling. A voice came chanting, fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. Let's do it. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
My name is Reverend Dalia Adams, and I am so honored to be here with you today. Here at Unity of the Valley in the year 2021, we have been focusing on transformation. Transformation is the process through which our consciousness unfolds and that we become better and greater, oftentimes in a stepwise fashion. Sometimes, for example, St. Paul had an instant transformation that changed his whole life. But the transformation process is a process of letting go of one way of thinking, one way of being, and embracing a greater, more filled with possibilities way of being, a way of being that is led by a greater wisdom, greater understanding, greater love oftentimes. So transformation is a very appropriate topic at Unity of the Valley Spiritual Center, because our vision statement is a world powerfully transformed through shared spiritual awakening. And today we are talking about trusting and honoring God in that process of transformation. For several weeks now, we have been looking at abundance and how abundance is our divine birthright. Jesus said that he came that we may have life and we may have it abundantly. And oftentimes good people, feel like they should not embrace abundance, that they should sacrifice and be poor. But the Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, taught that it is error thinking to embrace poverty. Instead, we should open to the abundance that is of God, the abundance that Jesus spoke of when he said, having life abundantly or in abundance. And as we've been looking at abundance and how we can transform our lives to embrace greater abundance, we have been following loosely the writings of Georgiana Tree West. She was a minister and a teacher in the 20th century, and she wrote a book called Prosperity's 10 Commandments, loosely based on the 10 Commandments that Moses received. And so what we've talked about so far is the first commandment, which tells us that we honor God as our source, that there are many channels of God's good. There are many channels of abundance, but the ultimate source is God. Our paychecks are a channel of abundance, but God is the source of our abundance. That is what the teaching of Georgiana Tree West is, as well as many other spiritual teachers who teach us about prosperity and abundance. The first commandment her book, adapted from the first commandment of Moses, is, "You shall look to no other source but God for your supply." And we talked about that, and we talked about God first in this process. The second commandment is, "You shall make no mental images of lack." And along with it, the third commandment, "You shall not speak the word of lack or limitation." And so then today, we will focus on the fourth and the fifth commandment in Georgiana Tree West's book. And the fourth commandment says, "You shall let go and let God." In the commandments that Moses brought to the Israelites, the fourth commandment tells us to honor the Sabbath day. Based on the creation story in which God created heaven and earth, and on the seventh day, the Sabbath day, God rested. And there is a very profound truth in the importance of this rest that we relax into, the rest that renews us, inspires us, fills us with a creative energy. And Georgiana Tree West wrote it as "let go and let God," because unless we do that, our rest can be superficial. Our culture, our society promotes working many hours and accomplishing many, many goals. And sometimes if we rest too much, we're being lazy. I've heard people over and over criticize themselves for not getting things done fast enough, not spending enough time, or apologizing for taking some time off. And yet that rest, that time that we step back in a way that honors the presence of God, a time in which we let go and let God, is central to the creative process. It is central to the process of embracing greater and greater abundance in our lives. I know myself that there are times when I sit down to rest or even lay down to rest, and unless I am conscious of letting go and letting God, sometimes my body may be appearing to rest, but my mind is going over and over, chewing on a problem, looking for solutions, worrying about what might happen. What ifs can fill my mind. And what actually happens is my body is not even resting, because there's a tension, there's an adrenaline flow when we constantly mentally rehash an issue or a problem. So this fourth commandment is talking about completely resting, allowing our minds to rest, allowing our bodies to fully relax, and to rest in a way that acknowledges that our source is God. Ultimately, it doesn't mean we don't make efforts. It doesn't mean we don't set goals. It doesn't mean we don't sometimes work very hard. But acknowledging always that all of these efforts are channeling the creative power of God through us. So that when we rest, we simply let all of it go, trusting that those problems we don't know how to solve yet will have a solution, trusting that that creative power of God is at work. That creative power of God is the creative power of the God presence we can experience within us. For we are not separate from God. There is nowhere that God is not, and so God is ever present throughout our universe, but God is within our own consciousness. So that creative power of God is at work as we rest. So we let go and let God. I remember many years back, there were a series of cartoons, comics, in which God and some person were playing tug of war, and God saying, "But you gave it to me," and the person saying, "But I want it back." And we do that sometimes. We release things into God's keeping, and then something triggers a worry in us, so we want to grab it back. I know myself, I look back in my own life, I went through this most amazing transformation when I first found unity, and I proved these prosperity principles to myself in the context of a prosperity class. And I demonstrated, I manifested a house on the water under the most impossible circumstances. I was in a hopeless financial situation, or at least what felt temporarily hopeless. I got my house, I got a job, and everything started coming together. My hard work was paying off, my bank account was growing, I was doing well, and I forgot. Even though I was immersed in unity and doing many things within the context of my spiritual community, I forgot. I started thinking and feeling that my abundance, my prosperity, was entirely dependent on my job, on my private practice as a psychologist, on the paychecks I was getting, on the checks that I was getting from insurance companies. Because I was doing well. I mean, it was looking good, and I was giving myself all of the credit. I forgot that God was source. And in came this very powerful call to ministry. And I had a long list of reasons why I shouldn't and couldn't do it. But one of them was I could not afford to leave everything that I had behind and go to seminary, because I would lose everything. I started thinking that I was the source. The small self of me was the source. And I forgot that I managed to end up with a house when the whole world was saying it was impossible, because God was my source. I forgot that if I came up against challenges going forward, God would still be my source. So I said no. I said no for that reason, and for quite a few others. For many years, I said no to that calling. And my fear, and what I had held in mind for 7 years, was that I would lose everything. And I managed to manifest that. I lost everything. But when I lost everything, I remembered it took that kind of chaos in my life for me to remember that God is my source. To really remember on a gut level. I mean, I remembered the story of God being my source, but when my world came undone, I remembered on a gut level. I remembered on a deep, very deep way that God is my source. And as I embraced that again, everything started turning around. So there is a challenge to letting go and letting God. There is a challenge when we're doing well, because we think that it's all on us. And there's a challenge when times get really tough, because we think it's all on us. It's God working through us and remembering to let go and let God, and to take times of rest, Sabbath moments, Sabbath days, where we live in that consciousness of the presence of God, and we release all of those worries, and we allow God's abundance to flow in and through us. Georgiana Tree West says, in every demonstration, there must be a resting period while one dwells in the complete reliance on God. Because we forget. So when we have a time set aside for prayer, for meditation, for rest, for contemplation, we can go into that deep rest of knowing that our lives, our abundance is all embraced in the arms of God. So in those moments, we start trusting that even out of the greatest chaos, divine order is born. I used to work for Unity's prayer ministry. The headquarters, Unity headquarters, houses a prayer ministry that has been around for about 100 years. And we were taught how to pray, and we were given affirmations as suggestions to use when appropriate. And one of the affirmations was just this, that even out of the greatest chaos, divine order is born. Because in that chaos, it's easy for us, it's easy for people to become afraid. As human beings, we like it when our lives are predictable, when we feel safe in the rhythms we've created, when we feel that we have enough with the financial resources and other resources that we have, friends and family. And we go along in a familiar routine and it feels safe and it feels good. And it is good. It is absolutely wonderful to live life in that kind of rhythm. But things happen, stuff happens, and it's not as we expected, it's not as we planned. Sometimes it calls us to be our strongest, bravest, most courageous, and it feels chaotic in that moment. Pema Chodron, a Buddhist teacher, wrote a book called When Things Fall Apart. In those moments when it feels like everything is falling apart, it feels like chaos. That order that I was accustomed to isn't there anymore. Out of that state comes such a creative potential. We're not likely to make big changes or to have huge growth spurts when everything is predictable and familiar and good. There's no reason to. But when things fall apart, which they do in life sometimes, that's just the nature of this earthly existence. Things change, they fall apart, chaos happens, and in those moments, a new way of being, a new rhythm, a new pattern emerges. And that's that divine order being born, and that new way of being, that new pattern, that new understanding is divinely inspired. It's the divine ideas that we open to that help us move through those chaotic times into a transformation to a greater way of being. I was reflecting on this, and I realized that even in the chaos, in those moments of chaos, it's important to remember that God isn't creating the chaos for us, but in that chaos, God is present. And God is our strength as we move through the chaos. God is our inspiration as we move through that chaos. God is our comfort as we move through the chaos. And in some ways, that chaos itself is divine because it's the chaos that invites new creation. That orderly, predictable, comfortable way of being is less likely to invite transformational change. But in that chaos, there's a new way of reorganizing, a new way of thinking, a new set of possibilities that open up. And to me, that's the divine essence in the chaos. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, there's divine order and there's divine chaos. And maybe I'm stretching it, but it made sense to me in that moment. That in that divine presence in the chaos is where all the possibilities arise. So this commandment tells us in the midst of these times that can feel so difficult, or even in the midst of the times that feel so comfortable and predictable, it's always important to step back and let go and let God and allow that creative power that is God to work through us, helping us to grow, to unfold, to transform. Deepak Chopra, in his book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, says when energy is freed up, when your internal reference point is spirit, and that tends to be his name for God, you can harness the power of love and use energy creatively. I think he was saying the same thing, but just in a different language, different languaging. And so with that, we move to the 5th commandment, and this is abbreviated. Georgiana Tree West's version of the 5th commandment. Again, she's basing her prosperity commandments on the 10 commandments that Moses received. And so it's, you shall deal honorably with God. The full commandment was, you shall deal honorably with God and with all human instruments through whom God is manifested for you. So the 5th commandment is honor thy father and thy mother, the commandments that Moses gave to the Israelites. So this commandment says, honor God as our spiritual father, mother, and to honor the human instruments of God that have provided for us, that do bless us, that do provide abundance in our lives. She writes about honoring God as the father, the mother of our spiritual life, but to honor our parents, our friends, our support system, our teachers, as the parents of our physical life, that we must do both, and we must see the people that support us as instruments of God, and to honor them in that way, and to be able to receive both what God gives to us directly in spirit and what God gives to us through others in our lives, and to honor that, to value it, to appreciate it, to take time, to take notice, and to be able to say yes as we receive this abundance, to say yes to our lives, to the things that we are called to do, to say yes to the gifts that we are given. Sometimes that's hard for people simply to say yes. Too often in our culture, oh, I couldn't possibly take that. That's too much. You know? Why? In Turkey, I was young and I was a tourist, and I learned very quickly that if I said to someone, I like that, I like your coat, I like the bag you're carrying it, they would immediately give it to you. And as an American, I'd say, oh, no, 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 I can't take that. But in their culture, that was the appropriate thing to do. If someone liked what you had and you said that you liked it, it became yours. And so the whole way that we have of giving and receiving needs to reorient to the knowing that it is all ultimately of God and from God. I was gifted once with an all expense paid trip to a spiritual retreat in Assisi. And ultimately, because of unity principles, I said yes. And my meditation, my prayer, my guidance was to say yes, but it was so hard to say yes. And it was ultimately something very good, both for me and for the person who gifted me. She was a good friend. She was a unity spiritual teacher, a licensed unity teacher. And we both grew out of the experience. So we deal honorably with God and all of God's representatives, all of God's instruments here on earth. And we honor God and God's instruments by acknowledging, by seeing, by recognizing the blessings, the abundance. We honor God and the instruments of God by being grateful for what we are given. To let go of this, no, 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 it's too much, I don't want this, I can't take that. Or no, 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 I know you're calling, God, you're calling me to be something greater, something more, something better, but I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I won't do that. And I say that from experience because I've done that in my life. And it doesn't work. You know, the calling doesn't go away. The gifts don't stop coming. But we need to acknowledge them ultimately to be from God and to be grateful to God and be grateful to the instruments of God's good. And we honor all of these gifts by giving back. On a spiritual level, we're taught to tithe, to give back to that which feeds us spiritually, whether it's a church, a spiritual center, maybe some inspirational speaker or an author of a book or a neighbor that inspires you spiritually. We give back and honor the instruments of our good when we take time first to acknowledge, I love coffee and I make a really good pot of coffee every morning. I buy good beans and they're ground and they smell wonderful. It's a thing for me, right? But I try to remember that it's not just this bag of coffee that I'm dealing with, but there were people who grew the coffee beans. There were people who tilled the soil. There were people that picked the coffee beans and then processed them so that they could be shipped to the store where I bought them. And if these beans are from a place like Ethiopia or Kenya or somewhere in South America, there were people who transported those beans. And then people who created stores and people who worked in the stores. And so if I stop and think maybe of the hundreds or even thousands of people who have come together to allow me to enjoy that cup of coffee in the morning, I acknowledge that and I can be grateful. I can be grateful. I can let my heart fill the gratitude for all of them, for each and every one of them. I can be grateful to this earth for providing the soil where these beans can grow. And I can give back. I can give back by, when I can, I choose coffee beans that are fair trade so I know that people are compensated for their work and it's fair. And maybe I pay more, which I do. but it's a way of giving back. I also like to choose coffee beans that are grown in the shade. Again, they're more expensive, but that means that there were trees and forest lands that did not have to be cut back. So I give back to the earth because each of these plants that didn't get cut back provides a replenishment of oxygen for our planet. So, there's a million different things we could stop and reflect on and acknowledge both the source as God and the instruments of God that made that possible. And we could just set an intention of each day going through this process with at least one thing: acknowledging, being grateful, giving back. So when we combine a practice of regular, dedicated times for Sabbath moments and rest, and a dedicated practice of honoring God and the instruments of God, we open to abundance in a way that is new, and it is part of the transformation process. I feel so much more abundant when I do this process with my cup of coffee than when I just mindlessly pick it up, sip, and maybe turn on the TV. So, Joel Osteen, wonderful spiritual teacher, said, keep honoring God with your life, stay in peace, trust God's timing. That's the letting go and letting God. And God will open doors for you that no man can shut. And so it is.
As we enter this time of meditation, I invite you to become still. I invite you to take your favorite meditation posture as we now center within.
I am a bubble, make me the sea, make me the sea, oh make me the sea, make me the sea, oh make me the sea, wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea, wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am a bubble, make me the sea. I am a bubble, make me the sea. So do thou, my Lord. So do thou, my Lord. Thou and I ever apart. Thou and I never apart. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am a bubble, make me the sea. I am a bubble, make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Make me the sea, oh make me the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am a bubble, make
So we move more deeply into our time of meditation. I invite you to sit comfortably. I invite you to allow your breath to come easily and effortlessly. And for a little while, simply notice the movement of your breath. Notice how your breath feels when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Breathing in, know that you are breathing in. Breathing out, know that you are breathing out. And as you focus on your breath, notice how each breath takes you deeper within, deeper into that sacred space within you, where you feel the presence of God. That sacred space within you where you feel the divine consciousness as the very core of your being, the very core, the very truth of who you are. This divine consciousness within you is the source and substance of creative energy that moves through you. As you rest in that sacred space within you, feel the creative energy that is of God that moves through you right now. Allow yourself to feel in the flow of the divine energy that moves through you in this moment. Allow yourself to relax into the movement of divine presence that moves through you and as you. Relax into the creative energy of God that you can feel moving deep, deep within you. Surrendering to that which is of God. And for a little while in the silence, know and notice what it feels like to be in the flow of the divine. I am in the flow of divine energy, and I reach upward toward the call of God. holding those affirmations in your heart and in your mind. Allow yourself to gently and easily come back to this time and place, to this moment. Take a nice deep breath. When you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And then join with me in saying, thank you. Thank you, God. Amen.
Now it is time in our service when we stop to give thanks and gratitude for our prosperity and the abundance that we have. It is time to remember that we are in a wonderful flow of giving and receiving. We joyfully give our tithes to Unity of the Valley Spiritual Center as we state together, God's love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am and have, all that I give and receive. I am grateful. Here are a few ways that you can tithe your financial gifts to our center.
I just wanna thank you for all you bring to me. I just wanna thank you. Your love has set me free. I just wanna thank you for all you bring to me. I just wanna thank you. Your love has set me free. I just wanna thank you for all you bring to me. I just wanna thank you. Your love has set me free.
Please join me in giving thanks for the increased constant flow of absolute good in our lives by stating together, the inexhaustible resource of spirit is equal to every demand. There is no reality in lack. Abundance is here and now manifest. Please join me in singing the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Now peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment, live each moment, peace eternally. Now there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me.
Now, for our closing, let us recite together our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. We are one holy family. We celebrate our oneness and we honor our diversity. Thank you.
So, as we bring the spiritual experience, the service, to a close, I invite you to join with me in our closing affirmation. We are free. Again, we are free. I invite you to hold that affirmation in your mind and in your heart throughout the week. Once more, we are free. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dalia. We thank you for your wonderful message and for the great talk that you gave. Thank you for joining us today, all of you. And so until next time, let's begin the waving of hellos.
In a happy mood, feeling gratitude. Thank you, thank you.
Gratitude is my name. Feeling grateful is my game. Thank you. Thank you.
When I lift my head up, stop complaining.
I see everything through gratitude-colored glasses, and we're all in this
Hello.
sea of bliss. Thank you,
Thank you,
thank you.
thank you. How's everybody? Hi.
Wave.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, bet you.
I'm in a happy mood, feeling gratitude.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Gratitude is my name. Feeling grateful is my game. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I lift my head up and stop complaining,
I feel everything through gratitude-colored glasses, and we're all in this great big sea of bliss. Thank you.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.